becomes an issue.
Today's Family First, flathead syndrome, when a newborn has a slightly misshapen head as the cranium is rapidly developing. You've probably seen little babies, toddlers with the helmets on.
And it can sound very scary. Hey, you may be surprised, though, at how often it happens.
Yeah, and if it's something that's going to be a problem for your child, what to do? We went to the experts to find out.
Flat-headed syndrome, or positional plagiocephaly, is very common. About half of infants will have this at some point in their lives.
Which sounds like a stunningly high percentage, and if your child at birth develops slight imperfections shaping their head, the last thing you should do, according to Dr. Jonathan Martin at Connecticut Children's Medical Center, is worry.
If they don't move, then their head gets flat. It's very similar to a pumpkin, sort of laying out in a western Connecticut field during a growing season. If you don't move that around, then where it contacts the ground becomes flat.
Chrissy Teigen recently posted photos on social media of her child afflicted with flathead syndrome.
When an infant comes out through the birth canal, the only way that a vaginal birth happens is because we have these hinges or sutures on the skull that allow the skull to deform as it comes through the birth canal. Once we're through the birth canal, as long as those sutures stay open, the skull grows in a fairly normal shape as long as it isn't positioned in one position for a very long period of time.
Consider this, some babies like certain positions and feel more comfortable in them. That's when flathead syndrome can become an issue.
The head compensates for that.
So how do they tackle flathead syndrome here at Connecticut Children's Medical Center? There are a lot of ways to take care of kids at a very young age, and believe it or not, surgery is not on that list.
We try to avoid any diagnostic testing for these children because radiation is not necessary. Avoiding radiation exposure is absolutely our priority.
So what do they recommend for babies less than 3 months of age?
Active counterpositioning, so just sort of change their position. We can do that in a simple way, simply by putting an interesting mobile or positioning the crib so that they can look towards the door.
At 3 to 5 months.
Tummy time, so putting the children on their tummy, supervised, obviously. 2 hours of tummy time a day, that can be 5 minutes here, but it can make a big difference.
By 5 to 7 months, a helmet helps. You've probably seen them before, used to gently keep the cranium in its rightful position.
A helmet is an option. It's never a requirement. It's definitely, it's an optional form of therapy.
Remember this about flathead syndrome. There are no long-term hazards from slightly misshapen heads. Programs at CCMC are designed to address physical ailments that can happen, like torticollis, a stiffening of the neck. The only other side effect is more social than physical.
The primary concern with flathead syndrome is worry and anxiety about whether or not the changes in shape of the head are something that's going to be noticeable to a child trying to integrate socially in a school environment. That's really why we consider treating this.
Real learning experience. Good doctors over that Connecticut Children's Medical Center.
Sure,
they really
yeah.
are. When he said over 50%, I mean, I was floored by that. I have 2 kids. You have 3. You have
Right.
2. So that's 7 right there, and then we're 0 for 7.
Surprisingly, no.
Exactly.
Yes.
So that was a bit surprising, but also just as surprising, happily, is the fact that there are no long-term effects from this, except, other than maybe a social effect, which I get. But again,
But they're so young.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they would remember
Well,
having to wear a helmet.
That's true.
Not that that's a problem.
Right.
You
Well,
know?
I think he was referring to also that the social effects if nothing is done.
Yes.
If there is, and not that you know of anybody that has a severe ailment or a misshapen head, but something like that, that down the line.
Yeah.
But it's a common thing, and it can be treated quickly, and so don't be afraid of it if it is one of your children.
Yeah, it just sounds
Yeah.
disproportionately
It really does.
scary.
Yeah. It
That's
does.
what you're saying.
It does.
Right.
It sounds
so
awful.
your instinct as a mom or dad is to freak out. But
Don't freak out.
There's plenty of other
Calm down.
things to freak out over.
This is not right.
This is not
it's
one
not a
of them.
huge
That's
deal.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, Matt, thank you. Moving on, President Trump's defense team will continue its opening arguments today